Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis, and today what I want to do is specifically talk to the Xbox Console GamePass players who started playing Destiny 2 when Beyond Light, Forsaken, and Shadowkeep got on Game Pass probably about a year ago. Well, that year is coming to an end, and while PC players on Xbox Game Pass are actually recently able to play these things for free, or at least as part of Game Pass, unfortunately on December 8th, all three, Beyond Light, Forsaken, and Shadowkeep, the content related to those expansions, is leaving Game Pass for Xbox consoles. And while you can't control what you are going to be able to play after that, you are able to acquire some exotics, and you will be able to keep those exotics. So my goal today is to discuss which exotics that you want to go after as soon as you can in these 2 weeks, if per se you're not looking to, spend anything right now. Maybe you're going to wait to Witch Queen, give it a little break. There are some exotics that you want to earn, and if you haven't yet, you want to get them before this content leaves Xbox Game Pass. That being said, before I get to the exotics, I do want to tell you guys, because I looked up on both stores. On PlayStation, maybe you're a PlayStation player, or maybe you're an Xbox player. Right now, the Legendary Edition of Destiny 2, that includes Beyond Light and the current season we're in, which would be Season of the Lost, Forsaken, and Shadowkeep. All of that is $32. Normally it's like $80 because it's $80 on Steam right now, but on PlayStation and Xbox it's $32. Now Xbox doesn't specifically give a date, but I will tell you, PlayStation shows it will be leaving, or that deal will end on November 29th. So from the date I upload this video on the 22nd, you're gonna have about a week for that deal. So it's $32. Now, just to keep in mind of what you're losing, Forsaken and Shadowkeep, you're going to lose the dungeon and the raid that is tied to both of these, but you're also going to be losing all 9 subclasses that are in the middle of each subclass. So if you go to the solar tree on any character, the middle subclass is tied to these expansions. If you don't own one of them, you will lose access to 9 subclasses. If you don't own Beyond Light, you're going to lose access to everything related to stasis. Now, you wouldn't theoretically have to earn it all back, but you won't have access to it until you purchase Beyond Light again, basically. So that's why the Legendary Edition is not a bad idea for console players on either side if you're looking to continually play Destiny and then maybe jump into Witch Queen in February. Because if you want to maintain access to pretty much all the content that's going to stay in the game when Witch Queen launches, that's a pretty cheap way to do it. Now let's talk about the exotics that you guys are going to want to go after. First, we're going to talk about quests, then we're going to talk about the kiosk stuff. All right, for Shadowkeep, you've got 2 main weapons that are power weapons that are quests you're going to want to go after. Deathbringer is one. Rocket launchers kind of come and go in their heyday, but this is one that can definitely do some very unique damage, especially in void situations, and it's just a quest you can go after. Finish the Shadowkeep campaign, talk to Eris. There's plenty of YouTube guides out there for any of these, so look them up, but this one is definitely one you should be able to get. And then also Xenophage. This is a very, very unique machine gun that hits like an absolute truck. It doesn't do crit damage, but it hits like so much bigger it doesn't even matter. It's got 13 in the magazine because each shot is insanely slow and just hits really hard. So it's a very unique one. Again, had a little bit of a nerf in the RPM. Hopefully that kind of comes back, but overall still a very cool weapon, unique to use. One of those you can earn by a quest, and it takes you into Pit of Heresy Dungeon, which is a really cool place to experience. So if you haven't seen that one, also a good reason. Now, I will mention Divinity. This one is going to take you going into the Garden of Salvation raid. It's, not an easy task to get, and it may take a weird group to try and find and go back and do this one. But if you do have friends that like to raid, this could be something you go after. It's a nice utility tool for Overload champions, and basically makes a giant crit spot on anything you hold this on for a while. It's a good thing for groups to get damage on a target, but overall, if you don't have this one, it's probably not the end of the world, because somebody else in a group who needs it probably is going to bring it with them. Those are the main 3 exotics that are going to be quest related. Now, there's one other one, since you have Beyond Light, and if you're playing this season a decent amount, you may have heard about this one. If you've been playing this season consistently, Agar Scepter is related to Season of the Lost. Now, if you buy the Legendary Edition, and you didn't have it before, for example, you will have access to this season. So if you do end up doing that, for example, maybe a little bit later, you buy it soon and then jump in between now and who knows, Agar Scepter is a very unique stasis weapon because it's kind of a really cool weapon, because instead of exploding enemies, it freezes them, and then if they break apart and shatter, it shatters the other things around them that freeze, and it's nice little chain freezing crowd control weapon. So That's another one that you can go through for the quest. That is part of Season of the Lost. So if you either buy the current little like season pass for Season of the Lost specifically, you buy the Legendary Edition, which comes with Beyond Light, Shadowkeep, Forsaken, and the current season right now, then you would also get that one. If you do end up buying some of these, or you see some of this on the map, you've been playing any of the current seasons, don't forget, if you haven't done it yet and you have access to it, Harbinger will get you Hawkmoon. Very cool hand cannon, kinetic hand cannon, and that the final bullet, basically, if you get enough crits, it stacks up and does like, 50,000 damage. It's an absolute bonkers shot if you can hit it in PvE. It's a very cool one to do. If you haven't got it once, I definitely would recommend it. It's probably going to be really hard to get the catalyst in the 3 weeks, depending on if you've got access to it. But if you can, Harbinger is definitely one. Another one I would advise going after, depending on what you have access to and depending on when it leaves, you're going to be looking at Presage up here. These are quests, depending on what you show you have access to. May or may not have access to these, but if you have Beyond Light, some of this stuff you may have access to, so check it and at least get one of these weapons. You may not have a ton, but at least go for one of these weapons. So, those are the main quests that you're going to go after. Now, in the main part of the tower, if you come over here between the two vaults, you're going to have the exotic kiosk. Let's talk about the ones that you can get from the exotic Cipher. And first, let me cover what that is. Xur sells a weekly quest, and what you can do is actually go through, and it says 21, but if you do higher difficulty things, it will accomplish it faster. You need wins in Gambit or Crucible, which, unless you're running with a team, it's hard to confirm that you're going to have a win. Or you can go for Nightfall, like Strikes or Nightfalls, and the higher difficulty that you do Nightfalls, like Hero, for example, will allow you to progress this a little faster. Either way, the exotic Cipher, which you can get from Xur, you can get it from the Season Pass. If you've even been going the free version of the Season Pass, if you're up to 55, you can get one there. So depending on what you have access to, you can buy some of these things right now. And the idea is you have limited access. You're always going to have access to the Red War exotics because they're part of the free part of Destiny 2. But depending on, like, Beyond Light, I'm not really going to cover because these are kind of season-specific exotics. If you had the seasons, you got them. If you didn't have the seasons, you probably wouldn't have these. But Shadowkeep exotics and Forsaken exotics, you won't be able to go into these two tabs right here and earn them when the content leaves Game Pass. So let me go into each of these and kind of explain my top 3. And the reason I say 3 is because if you can log in today and get an exotic Cipher from Xur and knock it out, and if you pick that quest up, you theoretically should be able to do that quest, get the exotic Cipher, and then if you have the currencies, which are not easy to get, but if you have them, you've been playing a bit, you might be able to. You might be able to get a total of 3 exotics before all your content leaves on December 8th. Let me cover my top 3, and then I'm going to go into honorable mentions, and we'll wrap this thing up. So the first thing I'm going to cover is Eriana's Vow. Now, Eriana's Vow is a special ammo hand cannon that basically works like a sniper rifle, since you can see the big giant scope on top. It is also intrinsically a barrier-breaking weapon. Also, you'll notice bonus damage when aiming down sights on the opening shot of an attack. This bonus is preserved if the shot deals precision damage or strikes an elemental shield. So you get bonus damage to a shield or bonus damage on basically a crit. It's basically like a sniper rifle. You're going to work on barrier champions. Overall, this thing is great at smashing barrier champions from range, and it's always going to be able to do it. It's one of the unique ones that works like this, and kind of one of the few for barriers. It's just one of those weapons in high-level PvE content that most people can lean on this one and get a lot of work done with it. So if you're going to play a lot of PvE content, or that is your style, this is going to be my number 1 for you. Now, Forsaken has me torn. If you like PvP, or Crucible, or Trials, or anything, Ace of Spades is kind of a must-own. This weapon is like one of the best hand cannons in the entire game. Now, it's an exotic, so it should be, but it's a 140 hand cannon, so it sits in that sweet spot right now. Basically, what happens is reloading after a kill loads the magazine with a few extra damage bullets. It grants radar while aiming down sights, so every class has radar while aiming down sights with this thing. And then you've also got precision kills with this weapon, increase reload speed, cause the target to explode with solar damage to nearby enemies. And then, if you get the catalyst, it does more Firefly damage. So you've got this insane hand cannon, and now they're also working and changing the ways like super energy is going to work. They're trying to make primary weapons get you more super energy. Like, this could be a very valuable weapon in so many aspects. Like, this is almost my number 1 over Eriana's Vow, but I'm still not entirely sure. But I was like, if you like PvP at all, this is like just the hand cannon you could use, I swear, in anything and still probably do okay for your team. So that one is amazing. Now, my number 3, but below both of those, like, great for PvP. Eriana's is great for PvE. Then we have Izinagi's Burden. Izinagi's Burden is a sniper rifle that allows you to take the 4 bullets in the magazine, hold reload, smash all 4 bullets basically into one super bullet, and do a massive amount of damage. In one bullet. Like, if you ever need burst damage, nothing can compete with what this one bullet can do. So if you ever need to do high level like damage in a PvE activity, like, hey, we need to smash this one specific guy like right in the face, this is still one of those things a lot of people can use to really delete some enemies. It's kind of something special. It did get nerfed a little bit with like people were like reload glitching and stuff like that. This perk kind of changed a little bit. Overall, it's still an absolute monster. Now you got to hit the one shot so you can't really miss, but if you can hit it, it hits like an absolute truck. So this is probably my number 3 if you're going for those ciphers, like week 1, week 2, week 3 for those exotic ciphers. Pick that quest up, work on it, and if you have the currencies, you'll be able to earn 3 exotics from this kiosk. Now, if you have that exotic cipher from the season pass, there are a few other honorable mentions I want to go over. I'm going to touch on kind of the, feeling of each one quickly. You can figure out where you want to rank them, but I'll probably go in some kind of an order here to start. Now, my number 4 is probably going to be Witherhoard because it's not a raid exotic, and I'll tell you why I say raid exotic when I get to the other side. And basically what this does is it makes a blight on the ground. It's a damaging area if anything stands in it on the ground, but you can also attach this to an enemy. So you can put one on the ground, put it on an enemy, and have it tick them double. If grenade launchers have like their heyday and come back to being awesome, this is one of those that you'll probably want to consider getting because of what it's capable of doing. It can attach or basically hurt anything on the ground, and it just gives them death over time. It's able to shut down areas in PvP. It can damage a lot of enemies that spawn in PvE. Overall, for like number 4, I would probably comfortably put it there. For Forsaken, Anarchy. Now, granted, this takes grinding a raid. Spoils of Contest, you would have to do a ton of raids to get this in 2 weeks. But when grenade launchers have their heyday, or if this thing kind of ever gets a little bit of love, it is one of those very powerful things. But you can attach these little like lightning sticker grenades, and they make this little chain lightning arena. And all they do is just sit there and tick damage. So you throw out 2 of these, you switch over and do damage with whatever else you're doing plus this. It's a nice way to get a lot of damage. It's a way some people used to solo Grandmasters. Overall, pretty potent, but it does take running a lot of raids. That's why it's just not quite as high on my list. It's useful, but not quite as high. A couple other fun ones. Bad Juju. Kills refill the magazine. It increases damage and grants super energy on kills. And I think the increased damage stacks to like 3 for String of Curses. Bad Juju is one of those weird ones because it doesn't have the longest range. Like, it's not going to win like a pulse rifle PvP fight, but in PvE, like kills refilling the magazine, you get super energy back, and it's full auto. That's not going to matter quite as much coming up soon with the accessibility options, but the fact that you can get super energy, and they're working on changing the way you get super energy. Anything that can give you super energy on a consistent basis like this is basically like an intrinsic thresh. Thresh. It's going to be kind of a beast. So this one may be something like a sleeper option, depending on if you've got it. Don't forget about it, especially. Truth, the only rocket launcher with 3 in the mag. So it's the only thing with 3 rockets. Again, for PvP, Thorn, you've got that tick damage over time where you kind of take somebody out of the equation for a little while, and you can kind of mark them, deal damage, and it's just a really frustrating gun to fire against, but also feels good, hits well, pretty damn accurate from range. Overall, very substantial one. Another one for PvP for a hand cannon is the Last Word. It's basically like an Old West, like quick auto fire from the hip, literally like you would picture in like, a duel. It is that type of weapon. And then Layman Arc. Anybody who uses this thing in PvP who is like God tier is scary, because one shot will nearly kill you, then it's going to sit there and tick damage, so you better not peek your head out, because like a sneeze of a bullet will kill you. So overall, that one's pretty cool. And then Yotun, a very fun fusion rifle with light tracking, not heavy, but light tracking that explodes and burns on impact. So overall, it is pretty crazy. I've been killed by it many times in PvP. Finally, over here, you've got Bastion. a kind of it's like a burst fusion rifle that fires kinetic slugs in a 3-shot burst. It's weird, but it can do a lot of damage to people in PvP because you don't expect to be hit by this thing from like 3 different times. It's one of those that can kind of mess you up. Traveler's Chosen's kind of fun, but a little unique. We'll see. The fact that you can get ability energy from this thing by basically getting kills and getting stacks, and then you do a reload, and as you do this big massive reload, you get this like recharge of your abilities. As ability energy is going to be hard to come by, again, this thing could be kind of fun. So there are some other options in there for you guys, but the main ones that I want you all to go after are the quests that you can do from Shadowkeep, Deathbringer, Deathbringer and Xenophage. Then you've got Harbinger for Hawkmoon, Dead Man's Tale, and then also Ager's Scepter that you can go for. All of those quests, try and do those in the next 2 weeks before this leaves. And then for those exotic ciphers, hopefully with the ones that I've shown you here, you have a good, comfortable way to spend those. But that pretty much wraps it up. Now, granted, remember, don't forget, if you want to buy that legendary pack for 32 bucks, you can have pretty much all of the access to all the content you're thinking about here, and you won't have to rush through anything. Just depends on if you're looking to keep playing this, you know. Even if you're not going to do the 30th anniversary thing, but you think Witch Queen's going to be your thing, I still would probably recommend the Legendary so you maintain pretty much all the content that's going to be in the game when Witch Queen is still around. So, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like below. If I, you felt like I missed somebody or I forgot something or anything like that, throw that info in the comments. Always nice to see that stuff from you guys in case I miss a detail here and there. If you guys want to find me on Twitter, it is at Ebontis. For Twitch streaming, it is twitch.tv/Ebontis. But right here on YouTube, thank you guys. If you want to support the channel, easy way to do that's with the subscribe button and the alert bell. Helps my videos get to you. If you want to do a direct support, you can join the channel as a member after you subscribe for emotes and also kind of access to anything exclusive I do for the members. And also you can find my Patreon down below. So all of you guys are amazing. Thank you and good luck.